All right, this is Coach Paul. This is Northwest Podcast 4.0. We're here with Helena Chavez Plemons, by way of New York 13 years ago. Has been in the Seattle area for 13 years now.
I have.
And we were talking, in passing here and there through classes about, what you do, and I was really interested in that. So why don't you tell our listeners what it is you do and kind of how you came to be here and met us and fitness and CrossFit and all that.
I'm a criminal investigator, special agent with the Coast Guard Investigative Service, and we do the internal and external investigations for the Coast Guard. So we do...
counterintelligence stuff? Or?
We don't do counterintel.
Okay.
We have a counterintel service that does that. So we do all of the interdiction investigations, smuggling, internal affairs involving Coast Guard members, environmental crimes, which is really big in this area.
Yeah.
And pretty much anything that comes on the water, we have jurisdiction over that, and then our members as well.
How long have you been doing this?
So I've been in federal law enforcement now for 25 years.
Wow.
But I've been with the Coast Guard for 13.
Well,
actually, 14. Yeah, 13.
Thank you for serving, first of all, and protecting us. And I had some adventures with some Coast Guard people while I was in service, and they're very fun.
Yeah, they are.
Very small bunch, but from what he was telling me, just constant action all the time because they're so small and things are always going on.
We're a mixed service, the investigative service, like a lot of the other military investigative services.
A lot of joint up.
Well, we're mixed in the sense that we have military active duty investigators, and then, like myself, civilian investigators.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you work together.
We work together. We do the same thing. Yeah, we're just different.
So is it the Coast Guard and accepting this job is what brought you from New York to Seattle?
I grew up in New York City. I went to Austin right before 2011. I was working for another agency there in Austin, Texas.
Shout out to Austin. My wife's out there.
Yeah. And then we had an opportunity to come out here. I came out here, and then I decided to switch agencies and go work for the Coast Guard.
So what got you started with investigations, and have you always been inquisitive?
No.
No.
It was kind of one of those fluke things. I was working at kind of part-time jobs, trying to figure my way around in college, and I decided to go work for the government, and because I wanted benefits, and so I did. And then I started talking to a lot of agents, and they were like, "Oh, you should become an agent," So I kind of did a shotgun thing and put in a bunch of applications, got hired.
How long was that process? I've heard some horror stories. I had a friend; it took him a few years, and he just got hired on to. It's one of those services that does all the background investigations.
Yeah.
Yeah, he works with them.
So
it took him a while.
It takes between 1 to 2 years, depending. It can take up to 2 years because the background process is really long. And then now almost everybody that comes in is polygraphed, and so it's just getting on a schedule and going through the whole process. But initially, it's about 18 months.
Recruitment is pretty tough. It's getting tougher and tougher.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the competition is getting a lot higher.
Yeah.
A lot of the agencies are looking for people with specialized language skills. So I think it is getting tougher.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing when I first joined the service. I had a few things on my record, and they're not there anymore. But it wasn't as difficult to get in. They needed the bodies, but it's real difficult for kids to get into the service nowadays, as far as education-wise, and having, at least in the Air Force, is where I retired from.
Yeah.
Having a squeaky clean record, and while I was in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, it really started becoming like a one mistake service as well. Like you make one mistake and you were gone.
Yeah.
Because there were people lined up at the door to get in. So is it kind of that way in your?
Yeah, I think it
now?
is. I think it's a great opportunity, and I talk to a lot of my friends who have kids and they're trying to figure out their way. And I wish I would have joined when I was young and had because I had to pay my college loans back for years and stuff.
Right.
And I see, that's a fantastic opportunity, and it gives people a solid career path. So I regret not having done it But it is tough. The big thing now is alcohol incidents for them. It's a big deal. And there are a lot of people waiting, and I think the competition in general has gotten tougher. I think before, probably when we were growing up, it was more like, go join the military if you're kind of like teetering on
Don't
that.
have shit to do.
Right, and you're teetering on that kind of like going bad or going to college. And now I think it's different. I think a lot of people are joining because they can do their time, get their college paid for, and then get a good career path going.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. I was very impressed with a lot of the new recruits that were coming in, as far as how fast and how good they were with the technology. They brought so much to the table in that regard. Like, give them an idea, and they say, "Oh yeah." The very next day, they had everything built in a small process or spreadsheet. And I don't know how you did any of that, but so I was very impressed with that. And they think very quick, more socially connected. But a lot of things have changed. So, what about, I guess, the physical standards when you first got into it? Has that changed to now?
So we investigators go through Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, and it's a basic law enforcement academy, and they do a lot of PT every day. You're doing PT running,
right.
Calisthenics. You do some defensive tactics and things like that. They have incorporated CrossFit into a lot of the training there.
And that's recently, the last few years?
I think in the last few years.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that a few times I've been back. But one of the things I've noticed, and I think you and I talked about it, just this generation in general doesn't like, I think that they don't, not everybody, obviously, and I'm not going to categorize everybody in one group, but I think a lot of them are not used to discomfort. And so they've kind of, I think eased a little bit of the standards, and I talk to friends, that have gone through police department academies and everything. I think it's kind of,
the service is my son recently graduated, well, not recently graduated, but about 2 years ago graduated from Air Force basic training, and we got to share our stories, and things are definitely different, without a doubt. And I didn't go through Air Force basic, I went through Army. So it was different in that regard as well. But yeah, like he said, when he got there, PT was it was nothing really, and it was really easy for him. It's the way they fight, the way we fight's changed nowadays. I think the combat arms in itself is growing, it's not growing, but it's smaller, it's shrinking, but then everyone else is being exposed to combat in ways that we haven't before. So I think there's more need for them to really tighten the standards. And the things that we've had to deal with overseas nowadays, I'm not saying they're any different. It's kind of what our generation has to deal with. I'm sure the generations before us had things to deal with, but it is a little bit different as far as not knowing who the bad guy is until the last second, and they use our ethics and morality against us, not really against us, but they just believe in different things. But so I think that should really start that mental toughness should really start at basic training, and the brainwashing should happen. You're sending basically they're still boys and girls off to combat at a very young age, and they have to be prepared for that. And I think the physical training and the toughness definitely helps with that. So I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the mental toughness should start at childhood, personally.
Right.
Because I think a lot of parents they're not as, you have a lot of helicopter parents nowadays, that just kind of don't let their kids figure things out.
Yeah.
And, I think we're doing this younger generation a disservice by not letting them learn, just how to handle their stuff, at a young age, like we did. You played outside. Your parents didn't get involved if there was fights or scuffles, and you kind of learned pretty quickly, how to defend yourself and speak up for yourself, and fight if you had to, or run if you had to, if it was someone bigger, and pick teams and kind of
social interaction, a little bit of intelligence gathering. What'd they say to me?
Yeah, exactly. And I think
I'm not going there.
lot of kids aren't doing that these days. They're
Yeah.
not getting exposed to that because everything is so organized for them. Everything's so planned out.
First world problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Lamar and I had a really good talk about just street ball pickup. You know, like how that was such a huge part of our childhood, is just going to the ballpark, and there's all ages there. You have old guys, young guys, and everyone's playing. And the first thing you learn was, if you want to be accepted by the group, you have to at least compete. No one really cared if you're good or not. They just wanted you to hustle and play defense at a minimum. And you had to hustle and communicate, and then and you had to win if you wanted to keep playing. You know, you had to find that team that could be competitive and keep playing on pickup ball. But you know, there'd be the scuffles on the court where people would argue. They'd have to work through that issue, and over time, you know. So there's a lot to be learned, you know, being out there and being exposed to those things without a doubt. I learned so much from being a part of Pop Warner in a bad neighborhood, you know, and a bunch of kids trying to do the same thing to accomplish something. I agree. Raise my kids that way. I definitely do. We call ourselves the Nelson Clan.
No, I think it's important. I think it's important because, you know, you see that now, like we get a lot of young people in our office and they don't understand, you know, I think when I was 18, 19 years old, if I would have been brought in, you know, for a federal investigation, which our stuff is, I would have been mortified, and they don't get the consequences, how their mistakes or misdeeds now at 18, 19 years old, because they're in the military, could follow them for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And, you know, they don't understand the consequences because they've never had to deal with consequences.
Right.
And you know,
they weren't allowed to make mistakes either.
Yeah.
Like you said, everything's been organized and perfectly planned out for them.
And forgiven, and you know, they haven't had to deal with, you know, having to make adult decisions because the parents always made them for them. You know,
So switching gears for a second, New York. Which part of New York?
I grew up in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. My friend will be happy about that. I'm gonna make sure I send this podcast to him. He's from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn, and born and raised New York City all up until, like I said, 99 was when I moved away, and go back every
So
once
you
in a
grew
while.
up during the birth and development of hip hop.
Yep,
Nice.
that's true to my
Any
heart.
any fans there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
nice.
who's like top three? Let's go old school. Let's not even. Let's just go top three old school.
Africa Bambaataa,
Woo! Dropping knowledge.
Curtis Blow,
Okay.
and I still like the old Beastie Boys because I remember them in high school and they used to do house parties. And, but yeah, that was a big deal.
Have you watched The Get Down on Netflix?
Yeah, I saw that.
What do you
Yeah,
think
it was
of
pretty good. It was
You
pretty
like it?
good.
Have you
I
seen the
did like
second season?
I did.
I haven't seen the second season, but any hip hop fans out there, definitely check out that show on Netflix. And what about the Hip Hop Evolution documentary that came out a few months ago?
I haven't seen that yet. It's
That
on my
is
list.
really good. And then HBO has, it's called The Defiant Ones.
I've heard that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, it's Dr. Dre, and then is it Jimmy Iovine? Jimmy Iovine?
I think it's
Iovine? Yeah, Jimmy Iovine. How they grew up completely separate, but had the same kind of passion and genius and cross paths. And now Dr. Dre's, shout out to you for becoming the first hip hop billionaire. That's amazing. So Brooklyn, growing up in Brooklyn, what was it like growing up in Brooklyn?
It was fun. I mean, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day because they were asking me what it was like growing up in New York City, you know, and it was great. I mean, we had a lot of freedom back then.
Yeah.
You know, I think growing up in that type of environment during the time that I did was fantastic.
Yeah.
Got exposed to a lot of stuff, a lot of different
Creativity,
people.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People from different cultures and backgrounds, and you know, your neighborhood was your playground, and you know, parents and everybody knew everybody because everybody knew
I'm
everybody's
gonna
kids.
close these doors for you. Excuse me. Rick Ross in the background. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you knew everybody, and if they didn't know you, they knew your brother, or they knew your family, and you know, cops knew everybody, and they.
There was a relationship with the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, I remember those days. We actually learned how to talk with police officers too.
Yeah, it was fun. It was crazy.
And when we got in trouble, they brought us to our house and let our parents in the neighborhood whoop our butts.
Sometimes the cops whip their butts, and the parents
Yeah.
were like, okay.
Yeah, it was a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely not. I think some of the police officers are so disconnected from their neighborhoods as well, though, because of technology.
Yeah.
Sit in their patrol cars. I don't ever see cops walking anymore,
I don't think they do
unless
that.
they're in town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They are very.
And they're undermanned. I could understand that too, you know. But, different subject there. So what about, did you play sports and all that growing up?
I did. I did martial arts. I did Shotokan karate for
That's
years.
very hard style.
Yep. I actually had my own studio in New York for years.
Nice.
In the city of Manhattan.
Okay.
And competed and really enjoyed it. And then I played volleyball in high school and college.
What positions?
Just kind of floating around everything.
Okay.
Did some swimming. In high school, did some. Somebody talked me into doing some synchronized swimming, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
And I love the water, which is why I loved Austin, but I suffered living in Austin, living away from the
Yeah,
water.
I had the rivers,
Yeah.
right? Did you ever do any river floats or anything like
We
that?
did river floats, yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah, we
Lounging.
did the Frio, and what was the other one down in
San Marcos, I think
Yeah,
that one.
that was fun. And so, yeah, and then I came out here. Couldn't find a Shotokan studio out here. Found a show and brew place and a.
How different were those styles?
They're very similar, but not the same. And then I tried a Krav Maga class out here. And then I was just kind of at a Globo gym downtown, and I met Jordan Holland, who was doing CrossFit at the gym there, kind of like, this is years ago before CrossFit was even a thing.
Right.
And he just had like a little class that he was teaching at the gym, and then we moved upstairs to kind of a more private area, and I really liked the community, liked the workout, liked just you're with a group, but you're just competing against yourself.
Right.
And I kind of really like that. You know, you're not. I know some people say, you know, the whole like CrossFit culture, the competition and stuff, and I guess it can be for some people, but I like that it's accepting for the people that aren't like that.
Yeah.
You know, you're not. If you look at like other sports and you know.
So this is the
Yeah.
Fitness Fanatics safe space?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Can
think
we
so,
say
yeah.
that?
Yeah, except for instead of coloring books, you get pull-ups.
Yeah. I guess that's one way to put it. I mean, and there's the people to the extremes. I mean, in all things, like even us, we'll look at some athletes and like, well, that's not what I'm trying to teach you. But I'm glad that we have people that are out there doing that, you know, that are very extreme with their sport and bringing it to new levels.
Yeah.
And what we're just trying to do here is bring a lifestyle change to people. So from there, where'd you go from there?
I actually ended up getting pretty badly injured a few years ago. I had torn my shoulder, torn my infraspinatus, my supraspinatus, and my bicep. And I didn't do anything.
How did that happen?
I was doing Turkish get-ups. I had probably years of injuries from overhead activities, and you know,
Okay.
probably already had some damage in there. And then one day we were doing Turkish get-ups, and you know, that kind of pop that
Oh, wow.
you hear and you feel.
Yeah.
And we iced it up, kind of tried to work out on it for a while, did some physical therapy, just wouldn't get any better, and then finally went to the doctor about a year later, and he said, yeah, it's shredded. You got it.
So what was that like, finding a fitness routine that you really started to fall in love with, and then getting a pretty significant injury from it, you know? And I mean, obviously you're still here.
Yeah, it was really depressing.
Yeah.
It was really depressing because I started putting on weight right away,
Okay.
and I had finally, you know, gotten control of that kind of weight you put on when you're not really active, or you're just. I was, you know, doing running. When I was at Globo, I was like run on the treadmill. You do the elliptical, and you do that stuff, but you don't really put on. You know, you don't really put on any muscle, and you don't.
Right.
You do your strength.
You're not challenging
yeah,
your body.
You're just like I've always enjoyed like trail running and swimming and things like that. So I've always kind of stayed active, but it was a different level of fitness that I found myself at. And so I did have a personal challenge during that time, which I worked through. And so my husband and I decided to go to trek up to base camp Mount Everest. And
how long did that take?
It took us 16 days.
16 days. Summertime?
It was March, so it was
spring. Yeah, still cold.
Spring. Yeah, it was really cold. Oh god, yeah. At night it was.
Dude, was that pretty enlightening or what? 16 days?
It was. It definitely brought us a lot closer.
Yeah.
Because
you recommend it?
I do. I'd go back in a heartbeat. Even though at the time I was crying for a helicopter like every night as soon as that sun would go down.
Was it all his fault? Every day?
Yeah. You know
what that's like. What do you mean?
Yeah.
That's good. That's cool.
And then you just kind of get used to it. You just kind of fall in a routine, and
you realize, I can do this.
I can do this, and I don't need.
My body adapts.
Yeah, your body adapts to the lack of food and heat and showers, and but then you build a kind of that camaraderie with the people that are suffering with you.
So did you do it through a company? You guys just decided to do it on your okay?
Yeah, we did. We actually got it through the climb, and then we went out there and. We were with Ace of the Himalaya is the outfitter that took us out, and they were fantastic. I would recommend them highly. But yeah, we had a fantastic time. We made friends that we're still friends with, now. And so that was during that time when I was injured, because I couldn't do anything upper body. So I started kind of hiking a lot, and then we did a lot of hiking to get ready for that. And then I came back and I said, okay, I think I'm gonna have to get the surgery. And then
so you got the surgery.
I got the surgery.
How long ago was that?
It's been 2 years.
2 years? And then when did you find us, I guess?
About a year ago.
Okay.
I had some complications from my surgery. I developed what was called frozen shoulder.
Okay.
Because my body developed excessive scar tissue around the surgery site. And so my shoulder locked down. And then once that kind of cleared up, I was talking to my surgeon, who's a fantastic guy, and he said, yeah, go ahead, try it. Listen to your body, and whatever doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Right.
And so I came here, I talked to Lamar, I talked to Scott when he was coaching, and kind of explained to them, and they said just same thing, do what you can, and little by little, I started noticing, going from this weight to the next weight, or things started getting stronger, and they're still, getting stronger. I mean, I don't know. There's certain things that are still really challenging for me, but I'm not going to give up. And, I see people progress, and, people that I started with, and let's say they're doing, their unassisted
Snatching
pull-ups
or
and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I want to be that person, but, it's my body, and I'm older now too. You don't recover like you did.
I spent about an hour last night digging my elbow into the muscles around my knee. And then, but I have to remind myself, like, dude, you're 42 now. Like, things are. You put 21 years in service to this country, and I have to come to a realization with that. Like, you put it off. The mental toughness comes first all the time, and then I start to realize, like, no, like, your wrist was broken, your ankle was broken, your knee was broken. You're fortunate that things aren't worse with your back, and I have to remember that, like, hey, this is a part of my rehab that I do every day here, that I'm training so I can be healthier. But I can't squat. There's certain things I just can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And I accept that. I just gotta find other things that make me happy when we grow. I'm always also interested in when we sustain injuries, where we were at in our life when that happened. Like, what if you weren't doing all that fitness and all that CrossFit, and something like that had happened? Then where does that put us in life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well...
being in shape and getting injured is one thing, but being out of shape and being injured is another,
I know my surgeon was happy, even though I kind of let the injury probably go longer than I should have. But he commented a few times that he feels a lot better in the long-term recovery when people have some kind of baseline of fitness, just because they're not dealing with people that don't have any kind of muscle development, and then they're doing these types of surgeries, these reattachment surgeries, and then they have to build up.
And that mental toughness too to get through physical therapy. You talk with I've seen athletes get injured and kind of never come back, but that competitiveness, okay, what's the next step? Just raising my leg off the ground for 30 seconds to a minute, and then there's that whole mindset of progression and getting healthy and getting better. But if they don't have that built into them, that could be tough.
Yeah.
You know, never really pushed, and then having to do physical therapy. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think any injury, you know, it's tough. It's mentally tough, and you know, there was times where, you know, I would just lay there, and you just get depressed because you're like, you can't. Yeah. Especially, you know, when you start developing complications and you can't lift your arm and you're just constantly in pain and constantly, and people don't. I was always one of those people that was like, oh, it can't hurt that bad, you know, and then all of a sudden you're in pain and you're like, oh.
Right. And what about relinquishing that kind of information to your coaches? Are you pretty good at that? Like, you don't hold back, or do you like, all right, I'm not gonna let coach know I'm hurt here and there?
No, I think it's important for you guys to know.
Yeah.
I think as you know, the fitness professionals, you guys need to know what's limiting us, just for liability purposes, and then to give us modifications and coach us on how to do things differently. And that's why I enjoy it here, because I know it's, you know, you guys have a very strong understanding of physiology and explaining how this muscle, and you know, when you guys do your warm up, it's very comprehensive for you know, for what we're doing that day. I mean, and I've had a couple of days where, you know, it just hasn't felt good, or I haven't felt good, and I've been lazy, or whatever. And you know, I appreciate that there's other things that I can do, and I'm not wasting my time. I'm still getting a good workout in, I'm still building a sweat, but I'm not wasting my time. You know, because that's why we come here, and that's why we pay to come here.
I think that's huge, is having that communication. One, the coaches have to be approachable. You know, us being able to. I've got that people resting bitch face people call it. I mean, that's just who I am, and it's part of my life that I've been through, and that's just but really trying to extend ourselves and open up that relationship so that there is that communication, and we come in and we're able to give the modifications before the workout even begins. So there's that quick, smooth flow, like you said. You know, we want a few weeks ago, we're all talking. It's like, you know, every member that comes in this gym, in our heads, we're thinking they have a shirt on them that says "Make me feel special today," you know. And we try to do that, and we want to ensure that, yes, like you said, you're not in here wasting your time, and you feel accomplished when you leave. Or even if some of the athletes who come in who can't do anything, and we just do an hour of recovery stuff with them, teaching them how to roll something out or stretch and work on that. But that's good. So what about, I guess, other areas? How is fitness, how's it important to you? Where does it help you? And how do you see it, I guess, being a lifelong commitment? And where do you see yourself maybe 10, 20 years from now with fitness?
No, I think it's absolutely important to maintain a lovely. I mean, look around. I mean, look at old people. I mean, the studies are there. If you don't do weight-bearing exercises and you don't move your body when you get older, you know, you're just going to fall apart.
Right.
And I always remember, actually, it was Jordan who would always, he was coaching us on squats, and he would always say, you know, you're going to thank me when you're 70 years old and you're trying to get off the toilet one day. You know?
Right.
And I always think about that. It's because it's true. You know, if you can't lift your body weight up, I mean, and you get old, and let's say you live alone, what are you going to do? You know, you have to be able to maintain a certain level of activity. I think for not just your physical health, but your mental health. I mean, it gives you that kind of rush, you know, that endorphin rush, and then it gives you that sense of accomplishment. And you know, it's just fun. You know, it's fun to stay active. I mean, even when I don't come here, you know, take my dogs and we'll go for a walk or a trail run or around Green Lake or whatever, and you know, yoga, or you know, just different things. You know, just kind of stuff to stay active. And I think it's important as we get older. I mean, I'm 53, so.
Well, you look amazing for 53, and I hope you keep it up. That's really awesome. There's a couple sayings that stick with me. Is show me the health of your spine, and I'll show you your health. And how well someone can move their spine, and then show me how well you move, and I'll show you your health. Which is pretty true. people who can move really, really well, they live a long time.
Yeah.
It's those that can't move as well, or they have an injury. There's going to be things that are limiting or that limit us, but we can still do so much in other areas. And I've been a believer in that we don't train our muscle groups, we train our nervous system by the movement patterns we want to do. And then because of those movement patterns, then we recruit muscle groups to perform the movements.
Yeah.
And then our intensity trains our endocrine system, all of our glands and our hormones. Like if we train really hard and intense, our body automatically goes into that fight, flight, or freeze response, because it doesn't discriminate what stress is. It just knows that the body's being stressed and it's going to respond to it. But yeah, just that either I'm chasing food or something's chasing me.
Absolutely.
And we sprint to get out either towards it or we sprint to get out of the way, and then we squat and we rest and we look, and that was pretty much how nature was and is. When we get too comfortable,
Yeah.
then the results show.
Exactly. And I just think, just the way society is now, I mean, you have to maintain some type of level of fitness because, it seems like we're always on a verge of some type of, and I don't want to sound like a, conspiracy theorist, but yeah, I mean, look, read the paper, read social media or whatever. It's,
Right.
Every day something's happening to somebody, and, I want to be able to at least put up a good fight.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
Either run or put up a good fight.
Yeah.
If it happens at that point. I mean,
Yeah. Speaking of which, it's one of our goals is to bring the Spear self-defense system here. Are you familiar with that, Tony Blair? So, of course, we attended that class last year in August. Myself, Coach Lamar, Coach Jason, and Coach Platt. And that's something we definitely want to get into as well, because we believe that everyone should know a little bit of self-defense. What is more, I guess, powerful than that?
Yeah.
Being able to defend yourself or defend someone else. And it's interesting that Coach Blauer says that he typically will teach a group of women, and he asks them, how important self-defense is to them, and really he gets no response or a very minimal response. But then he tells a story about someone doing something to one of their kids, and all of a sudden they become the most vicious moms in the world. He says, why is it that you're willing to protect your children, but you're not willing to do the same for your own life? So if you survive, they survive. And just that thinking, I was like, wow, that's the kind of thinking we need. It's like, yes, self-defense, self-preservation is important for myself and for my children, and to be confident in oneself. That's amazing.
Yeah, that mental attitude. I mean, look at that runner, was it last year, over at Golden Gardens? And she was in the bathroom, and a guy attacked her, and she if you read her interviews, I mean, she just said she had taken a class, and she remembered, and
fought back.
Yeah, she just fight back, fight, and
Fight back.
Yeah, and it works.
And I think in the long run, mentally, anyone, God forbid, anyone's attacked like that, but if they fight back, the research is out. Those that fight back recover better.
Yeah.
Because they fought back. They lived for themselves, and those that kind of gave in and let it happen have the PTSD. They're not able to recover from it as well.
And I mean, and sometimes you can't. There are always going to be circumstances where you can't. Whether it's physical, mental, or overpowering. You're just unable to do it, and
yeah,
that's okay
and
too.
it's a completely different.
But yeah, I mean, for me personally, and maybe that's part of growing up in Brooklyn when I did. I mean, yeah, I think I have a little bit more of like that street kind of like give somebody
business.
Yeah.
Give someone the business that they wanted, right?
Exactly. So I laugh sometimes when I see things, or whether it's on the news or even just walking around downtown or something. I'm like, man.
Yeah, but I think we get so disconnected. We rely on third party to handle our any of our conflicts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In school, I'm not allowed to handle my conflict with this other person. We're taught to bring it to a teacher, and we're always looking towards another figure to solve our problems. And even government now becomes our father, our God, our everything, telling us what to do, and we're always looking towards it rather than I can handle myself as a professional and to try to work things out with people and talk about it. And conflict is good.
Yeah, I think conflict is good.
It's very good.
I think conflict is good. But I think, you have to also, one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is not to kind of listen a little bit before I jump back. And I think that comes with a little bit of maturity and life experience. But, I think that's good too, not get so defensive or just dismiss people like some people do so easily.
Especially in your line of work.
Absolutely.
It can be tough.
But yeah, I think, for me, staying active, hopefully maintaining some level of fitness is going to be a lifetime thing. And I'm working now on losing weight because it becomes so much harder as you get older. And I think it's kind of problematic because if you didn't have a weight problem when you were young,
how's it going?
You probably didn't pay as much attention to nutrition as you should have. I was one of those kids that could eat pizza and burgers and whatever I wanted, and never even thought about it. And all of a sudden, like my 40s hit, and it started going on downhill, and then it just progressively.
Is that the number? 40?
Yeah, I think.
I got so much to look forward to.
Well, I think for women, I think your metabolism really starts slowing down in your 40s, and then it just gets worse. And so when I talk to women like in their 20s and 30s and they're complaining, I'm like, well, wait till you get older because it's a lot tougher, and
So for you, fit over 50. I mean, really, I guess that's what we could call this podcast. And you were talking about potential retirement?
Yeah.
Did I hear that? Okay, so that's not a secret?
Not a secret.
All right.
I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of playing with the idea next year sometime.
Okay.
There's some factors, obviously, that can change.
Right.
We're mandatory retired at 57. I don't think I could do this until I'm 57. I've always laughed because when I go to the range or do defensive tactics or something, I'm like, I don't want to be that old lady that's, at the range and can't get up off the floor and
waiting on you.
And that's part of what keeps me in here because, when you those drills and you're doing all the qualifications and stuff, you got to move fast. And
so how do you do? You fare well?
I think I do.
I would assume you fare well even against younger people, right?
Yeah, I think I do.
Still leading the way.
I hold my own.
Good.
And I think that's where the functional movements from CrossFit, the burpees and stuff, help you get up fast.
I'd be inspired by that. If I was some 25-year-old kid, I'm like, man, look.
Yeah.
She's on point.
Yeah,
like,
and
wow.
So if we got to go run somewhere or climb something, at least I can do it, and because I always said I don't want to be that old lady that can't
perform.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
you can compromise the team that way.
You compromise everybody. You compromise yourself, and
you got to know when to pull yourself out too.
So but I'm still thinking about it next year.
Okay. And then what then?
I don't know.
Consultant.
I don't know.
Teach people to shoot self-defense.
I don't know. Maybe you
CrossFit coach.
Maybe you guys will see me in here every day.
CrossFit coach. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just enjoy life for a little bit.
Okay.
And then kind of figure out. My husband and I talk about things that we would like to do.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of really. He's a big off-road motorcycle guy, and we've done a lot of big trips throughout the world. We've been to Africa and South America.
Wow.
And
so you guys take it to the next level.
Yeah, and so we've.
Have I ever met him?
He used to come here.
He used to come here?
Yeah, he came here a couple of times. His schedule is kind of odd.
Well, let him know. I'd love to meet him.
Yeah.
Come and work out with us.
Yeah, he has time here. Yeah. And Lamar's always bugging me about it, but he, it's just kind of difficult for him to work it into his schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's something we've tossed around, the idea of maybe kind of doing our own trips, taking people, to Central South America and taking them on trips, supported trips where they can experience a little bit more of the culture and things like that, a little off-road life.
Well, good. I wish all the best for you, and when you do retire, and keep coming, keep trekking along, and we'll get this shoulder healthier.
Yeah.
And appreciate your time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Protecting us, keeping us safe. And 30-second plug for you. Anything you want to say? Go ahead.
No, you guys keep doing what you're doing because it keeps me coming back.
All right.
All right.
Well, appreciate that. We have I guess it's a plug. We've got a 30-day challenge that we're going to be doing in September. We'd like to invite you and anyone who's listening to do this. It is going to be similar to our challenge that we did a few months ago, but on steroids. We're doing it big time this time. We're going to have a full-out orientation. To our subject matter experts are going to be coming in here. It's going to be like a health and wellness fair specifically for those who are coming to this challenge. And there would be and you would be broken down into these teams with the team captain. The team captain will be one of our coaches. And then there will be a physical assessment, a movement assessment that will be done. So a lot of education is going to be pushed during the orientation day. And then there'll be some challenges that are kind of similar to the point system that we've been doing with the bingo lately. And every weekend following that is a mandatory Saturday that we have an event specifically done for the members of the challenge. For example, week 2, I believe we're doing I think it's a movement. Week 3, we're doing an outrigger event that we're going to take our teams, go out to the water. We're going to have coaches, real rowing coaches with us, go out there and paddle. And then, so there'll be an event every week. We're bringing in a meal prep team as an option as well for anyone that's a part of this challenge that would like to have their meals prepped for them. There'll be a refrigerator brought in. Come in here, work out, leave, grab your meal, go home. So we're excited about it. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy your week. I heard Bite of Seattle's going on today. So if you didn't have any
gotta go
plans.
see the Yankees.
Oh, they're playing.
Yeah, playing.
Yankees against the Mariners.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.